Today, we are diving deep in the world of Stratocasters, but we're not looking at the same old boring Fenders. Get ready for a battle royale between two rising stars that are not only shaking the guitar world, but also giving Fender a lot to think about. Head to head today, we have on one side the Jet JS 480, and in the other corner, we have the mighty Harley Benton ST Modern Plus. Are they really better than a Fender? Well, all we can do is find out. I hope Fender doesn't put a hit on me Diddy style. Now, before the Fender fanboys come at me with a pitchfork, you've got to hear me out. There is no doubt Fender is one of the few brands that is responsible for creating the modern guitar. Leo Fender got it right the first time round. There is no doubt Fender produced some incredible instruments and their legacy will live forever. However, we can't deny that these contenders bring some serious heat at a fraction of the price. And I want to show you exactly why. The sexiest and most rock and roll way to set the scene for this comparison is actually to use a spreadsheet. This is a very, very simple spreadsheet that I just put together, and in order to do a fair comparison, we do have to look for the entry-level Fender Strat, so excluding Squires, with a humbucker at the bridge. And the Fender Player 2 is the one that gets the closest. Just look at those specs. I don't know if we actually need to discuss this that much. We are talking locking tuners, we are talking roasted maple necks, we are talking Alnico 5 pickups, in one case jumbo stainless steel frets, and a Babbage bridge. In the other, a bone nut and a proper rosewood fingerboard. These are things that normally you would find on guitars at least twice the price of these. Let's just look at that price, because that's the real shocking thing. The Harley Benton comes in sub 300. The Jet, just over 300. But the Fender Player Series 2, 750. Now, obviously, specs are just on paper, so really, we need to talk about how they're constructed, what do they feel like, and most importantly, what do they sound like. Let's start with the Harley Benton ST Modern Plus. This thing is a pure rock machine. It has locking tuners, a Graphtec nut, what else? Alnico 5 Tesla pickups, and the real game changer, a Babbage bridge. Now this makes the guitar. At this price point, this is incredible. Perfect tuning stability. What a bridge. The neck is beautiful, feels really smooth, won't go anywhere because it's roasted maple. And overall, it's a very, very good looking guitar. Now the Jet, on the other hand, has a slightly more traditional Strat feel, but with a real modern flair. Again, we have Alnico 5 pickups, locking tuners, and a beautiful roasted Canadian maple neck. But this time, we also have a real rosewood fingerboard and a proper bone nut. Now the bridge, on the other hand, is a bit of a novelty. This is Jet's own 2-point trem, and gotta say, feels very good. Let's get up close and personal with the construction and build quality, because the big boys, Gibson and Fender, more often than not, fall short in that department. Gotta say, Harley Benton on the ST Modern Plus has really upped their game. I mean, really upped their game. The finish on this is flawless. Beautiful matching here, really, really flawless. No dings, nothing. This came directly from Thomann, perfect. The rounded fret ends were immaculate. Stainless steel frets, construction and general build quality, really good. All the hardware feels really solid as well. Very surprising for Harley Benton because that's often where they save money. Also, this guitar, as opposed to the Jet, you're able to split the humbucker by lifting the tone pole. In its own way, the Jet boasts some really impressive construction and finish as well. I mean, you may not like it, but look at this finish. It's sparkly, no paint defects, the neck pocket is immaculate, and Jet, as always, have been the masters of fret ends. No sharp frets. The Korean-made Alnico 5 pickups sound very, very good. And again, very solid guitar. There's no splitting the humbucker on this, but it's fine. And gotta say, trem does everything it's supposed to do. So no issues. Also, because you've got that bone nut that makes sure there's no binding, really well cut as well. Throughout this video, I put little sections of me playing both guitars in the mix and outside of the mix, so you guys can make an informed decision, hear exactly what they sound like, and see if there's any main differences between the two. For the recording of those sounds, both guitars used exactly the same signal path, so I was going straight from both guitars into my audio interface, and in Reaper, I was running the awesomely cool Nembrini Audio MP1 amplifier. If you don't know it, it's a really cool plugin. So the setup was exactly the same for both guitars. It is what it is. That's what they sound like. Now, having said that, we need to start wrapping this up and talk about, firstly, why, if you're in the market for a Strat or a HSS Strat, you should seriously consider these rather than a Fender Player Series. And two, which one should you get? What are the pros? What are the cons of each? Now, despite the slightly clickbaity thumbnail and title, there are some very serious things to consider here. I've now owned a large number of Fenders, going from the very high end to most of them actually being on the lower side. And I've always loved those guitars, but I've got to say, on those guitars, there's always been one or two things that really rubbed me the wrong way. The first example that comes to mind, a couple of years ago, I bought a Mexican Tele, just a standard one, and I really liked the guitar, but unfortunately, I eventually sold it. You know why? Because the frets were just doing my head in. I had to file them. I had to smooth the fret ends. The neck was typical Fender neck, so really nice, but it didn't really justify me having to put that extra work for something that could have actually been cheaper. The pickups, yes, they were good, but they didn't blow me away. And this is the important part. In many of those guitars, there was really nothing that I could justify spending an extra $300 on just because of the name Fender. They didn't have a specific extra vibe to them or some fairy dust magic. The materials were equivalent, if not less good, than its competitors. And I think overall, this has been both a theme for Fender and Gibson. They need to wake up because other people are really, really making enormous progress. Obviously, Gibson, Fender, the big boys have massive overheads. These companies don't. But something needs to be done because they are coming for you. So let's now start talking about the pros and cons of both these guitars. And as I've got the Harley Benton, let's start with the ST Modern Plus. Pros, I'm going to start and say it immediately. This feels like Harley Benton has really become an adult. They've been in the business for a long time, but finally they have produced a guitar that feels like a pro instrument, and finally they have produced a guitar with no shortcomings. More than that, they have produced a guitar with a Babbage bridge, and I can't stop raving about this bridge. Fantastic. The cons, if we really want to say it, maybe the Tesla pickups, but just maybe. I think the pickups are perfectly fine. I really don't see any reason why you would want to change this, but I could see how someone else might. And we've got to say, the name on the headstock. If you're one of those people that's still going on about this, I know that you won't play this guitar simply because it has Harley Benton written on it. And you won't want to play it live because of this name. And unfortunately, that's one of the issues Harley Benton is facing. If now we look at the sparkly Jet, well, what can I say? It's a different vibe. It's a little more classic maybe. But here again, this is an upgraded model. It's not the model from 2 years ago that had ceramic pickups. These are amazing, amazing Alnico 5 Korean-made pickups. The bone nuts and locking tuners, match made in heaven. What else do you want from life? And most importantly, the neck. Jet, as I said before, has always been the masters of the necks and the fret ends. And this one, oh, I love this guitar's neck. I would put this on any guitar I had. Such a beautiful neck, so comfortable, it just fits in the hand perfectly. Lovely, lovely guitar. Cons on this one, we've got to say, maybe some people may not like the fact that it's its own Jet branded trem, so not a big brand trem. Then again, the fact that there's no coil splitting on this one might be a problem for some. It might decrease the kind of versatility of the guitar, but that's really about it. As usual this time in the video, let's get to my final thoughts, and let's also think about which one of these two should you buy. Having already agreed, I think that they are worth a shot before trying out the Fender. I really think that these two, despite the specs being fairly similar, are actually two slightly different takes on the HSS Strat. There's no doubt that the Harley is more modern in styling, but also in kind of feel, neck, and with the addition of the stainless steel frets. The Jet, on the other hand, does feel a little more classic. It may feel a little more familiar. As always with these things, it always comes down to personal preference. We are all different, and that's what makes the world beautiful, right? The Harley Benton has an amazing bridge. The Babbitt's bridge, again, is a real game changer. Having a guitar, which is $300 with that bridge, is just heaven for me. So that is the biggest swaying factor in the Harley Benton. But the Jet, on the other hand, has an incredible neck and has a different vibe, and dare I say it, maybe the pickups actually sound better. They sound closer to what a Strat should do. They sound slightly less modern, a little more vintage. The bridge on the Jets is perfectly good. It's just as good as any Fender bridge, so I wouldn't hold that against it. It keeps in tune. A lot of people have commented on my videos asking whether this new bridge keeps in tune because they've heard that they don't. Bullcrap. They keep in tune perfectly. If the guitar is set up right, it's rock solid. So don't believe what they tell you. If we're talking about price, there isn't a massive price difference. Yes, the Jet is slightly more expensive, but we're more or less there. And they are really worth, both of them, worth the price. So having given you the diplomatic answer saying, you know what, it just depends on your preference, I will now give you the less diplomatic answer, telling you which one I actually prefer. Countdown, 3, 2, 1, and the winner is the Jets. You know what sways it for me? The neck. It just feels more comfortable. I have a slight issue with Harley Benton necks. It's the shape, it's the compound radius. Again, it's very personal, but I just prefer this neck shape. I prefer the way the Canadian maple is roasted on this. It feels slightly more authentic. It just feels great. It's like butter. I always have the two lying around, and this is the one that I always pick up. So there's got to be a reason. But again, guys, everything is personal, so it does really depend on what your number one thing that you're looking for is. This neck, for me, is perfect. If I could have that Babbitt's bridge on this guitar, I wouldn't need another guitar ever. No, that's not true. Let's wrap this up. I definitely think that if you are looking at a Fender Player Series, so around the 500, 700 mark, then you need to. It would be silly not to look at these guitars because these two have really a lot to say. The specs are better, but it's not only about the specs. It's the construction, the vibe they give off, the attitude, the balls they both have. The companies have worked hard, and I think we should all just forget the name forget about the origin, whether it's China, Indonesia, or Mexico. Who cares? It's not about that. It's about finding an instrument that you connect with. It just would be a real pity if you miss these just because of the name on the headstock. So as usual, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. As always, write me a comment down below. Have you played these guitars? Do you like them? Have you played the Fender Player series as well? Let me know, because I'm really interested. None of these are universal truths. These are just my opinions. And I just wish that someone would have told me before I got all those Fenders, because there are other brands that are really working hard to reach that level and go well over it. So don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, do all that business so the algorithm likes me. I hope Fender doesn't put a hit on me Diddy style. As I always say, guys, please keep playing guitar, and most importantly, enjoy your life. It's a beautiful world. Be nice to each other. Peace.